You gotta love the irony of going to make sure that the dead guy is dead, and yet you're the one that ends up being the cause for him coming back to life. Alright, here we are at day 6 of the 13 for the 13th, and we are at Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Released in 1986, this was meant as a sort of return to form for the series. After people were disappointed with Part 5 and its copycat Jason, Paramount was pretty much like, well, we need actual Jason in this movie. So they brought Jason Voorhees back to life. But, you may ask, how exactly does this happen? Well, you see, the story starts out with Tommy Jarvis, now an adult, going to a cemetery with a friend of his to dig up Jason's coffin and check to make sure that he is dead, because Jason is still haunting Tommy. Tommy begins having flashbacks to Jason's massacre in Part 4, and he grabs a fence post and begins stabbing Jason's body, which is covered in maggots, but lightning strikes the fence post, which raises Jason from the dead, and now begins the era of zombie Jason, and he is awesome. After that, Tommy flees, and Jason begins going on a rampage, making his way back to Crystal Lake. Tommy, in the meantime, goes back to the town, which has been renamed Forest Green in order to try to get away from all of the murders and stuff, and he goes to the sheriff's department. Obviously, the cops don't believe him, and Tommy is suspected of being the one committing these murders, but what is now called Camp Forest Green is also reopening, and kids have arrived at the camp. For the first time, we're actually seeing kids at the camp, and the sheriff's daughter, Megan, happens to work there as well. Eventually, Megan helps Tommy break out of the jail. She helps him get to Crystal Lake, where Jason has killed quite a few people, and he attempts to trap Jason in the lake in order to do away with him once and for all. And eventually, with the help of Megan, he does so. Putting a chain around Jason's neck and having that tied to a rock, Jason is now chained to the bottom of the lake. Not dead, but for the moment, trapped. So the characters, now Jason comes back in this. I do like his look in this movie. I feel like there are times where the mask can kind of look a little wide, but it doesn't really bother me. Always liked him in this one. He does seem a little bit, I'm not sure if scrawny is the right word, but definitely a lot thinner, I guess, than previous movies, but I don't mind the lighter build. I dig his look. All around, as usual, good Jason performance. Tommy Jarvis, played by Tom Matthews. I love him in this. I love this Tommy. He's a lot different than he was in Part 5, but there are questions as to if Part 5 is even in continuity, so you can maybe just ignore it altogether. Megan's a great and very likable character. I like her a lot, and her dad, Sheriff Garris, is awesome. He's kind of a dick, but you can understand it, especially just because he wants to protect his daughter, and he's a great character, and honestly, it's kind of sad to see him go, especially since he goes out trying to protect his daughter from Jason. I like his deputy, Rick Cologne, and it was pretty cool to see him come back and Never Hike Alone in the Snow. And of course, Tommy Jarvis came back and Never Hike Alone, and that was pretty awesome. All of Megan's friends and the camp counselors are great. I like the kids in the movie, like the one girl who prays to keep Jason away. I always thought that was cute, and of course, it's real good that nothing happens to her. And I like the two boys who are obviously the comedic relief. And I love the whole "what were you gonna be when you grew up" line. I think this movie has a pretty good cast of characters. There's nobody that I really find annoying, which in these movies, there's always usually one in there, so it's kind of nice that this one doesn't really have that. Unless, of course, something just bothers you personally. On to the kills. I think the kills overall are decent, but there's a lot of stuff that cuts away in this, and I definitely feel like this is kind of the one where you could definitely start to see the MPAA start to really cut down stuff, but there are still some good ones. The first kill that Jason gets in this movie, which is Tommy's friend that he brings along to the cemetery, Jason just straight up punches his heart out, no problem. I like that one a lot. I like what is the second one he gets in this movie, where Jason stabs a guy with the fence post and then just tosses him over his shoulder like it's nothing. That's a good one, and that's one I've always remembered ever since I was a kid. And then, even though it is sad, I also like when the sheriff is killed, because Jason just straight up folds him like a goddamn pretzel. And honestly, for me, it's either that one or the punching out the heart one that's probably my best of the movie. So this Friday the 13th has a lot of new stuff going on for it. It has some self-referential humor in it, you know, like just acknowledging stuff going on with a horror movie, breaking the fourth wall, you know, and this was long before Scream became famous for doing that. And this one also has kind of just bigger scenes in general, because like we get, you know, car chases, and Jason crashes an RV with another good kill in that scene where he slams the chick's face into the wall of the RV, and you see her face just in the wall. That one's pretty gnarly. And of course, bringing in much more of a supernatural sort of element to the series, because obviously Jason is brought back from the dead. And, you know, there's always been some stuff that could definitely be supernatural with Jason, but I feel like this is the first overt sense of, hey, there's definitely some supernatural in this. And then there's actually some supernatural in the 2009 movie. And one of the biggest things that this movie did is just Jason in general kind of going off of that supernatural element, because I feel like this is the movie where we finally get to what people think of Jason being an undead serial killer with the hockey mask, the machete, and everything. And it's by part 6 of the series. And I've always thought that was pretty cool how, even if it's just in kind of like Jason's look and stuff like that, how the series did evolve over time and how it kind of took a while to get to what people think of the series and the character of Jason. I cover this in a separate video if anyone is interested in checking that out. So yeah, overall, Friday the 13th Part 6 is a pretty great entry in the series. And honestly, if the final chapter isn't your favorite movie or best in the series, it's most likely this one, just kind of going off of a general consensus with that. But I think it has, especially for a Friday the 13th movie, a pretty good story, some really good characters. Jason's great, just some great scenes, more action-oriented scenes, which is awesome. Great effects, great music. Just overall, this is a great watch. Whether you're a fan of the series or a casual, or you just like your horror or slasher movies, this is a good one. I would highly recommend checking it out. It just kind of sucks though, because it will be a while, if at all, that the series actually hits this high of a high again. Tomorrow we'll be looking at Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. This one was one of my personal favorites as a kid, and it'll be very cool to talk about this one. I hope everyone's enjoying 13 for the 13th. In terms of reviewing the movies, we are halfway through, which I'm very excited about. I'm having a lot of fun talking about these, and I hope you've had some fun following along with this. As always, everyone, thank you for watching, and have a good one.